There are growing questions over what caused a mid-air collision near the nation's capital.
This club has an aircraft inside pressure separation.
67 people killed when a Black Hawk helicopter collided with an American Airlines jet, sending both plunging into the Potomac River.
We have been told that there are no survivors.
What we've learned about some of the passengers on board, many of them coming back from a figure skating competition.
The best way I can describe him is just was a force of nature.
Investigators are collecting all the evidence and data they can.
Our investigative team will be on scene as long as it takes.
And officials are speculating on a possible cause.
The helicopter obviously was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Do I think this was preventable? Absolutely.
Here is a live look at Reagan National Airport tonight, now the scene of America's deadliest commercial plane crash in more than 15 years. Tonight, NTSB investigators say dive teams have recovered 2 black boxes from the American Eagle jet that went down in the Potomac. PSA Airlines operated that regional jet for American Airlines, which is based in Fort Worth. 64 passengers and crew members were on board, with 3 soldiers on the Army Black Hawk helicopter that hit the plane. We just got word the airline is resuming direct flights from Wichita to D.C. tomorrow night. Senior political reporter Jason Wiley has covered the aviation industry for decades. Give us some idea of where the investigation stands.
Chris, we'll start with how difficult this day has been at Fort Worth-based American Airlines. Aviation experts are telling me right now that federal investigators really have a good place to start right now, and that is with the Black Hawk helicopter. Why did those pilots fly directly in front of that American Airlines regional jet? Were air traffic controllers clear enough about the approaching plane? Were the Black Hawk pilots maybe confused about which aircraft to be on the lookout for? We do have some new images of the crash site here. The U.S. Coast Guard released these pictures this evening. You can see how shallow the Potomac River is here by the airport, 5 to 10 feet of water here in this stretch. The fuselage of the Black Hawk helicopter can be clearly seen there. The regional jet wreckage is much harder to make out. Its debris field is spread out across the river, nothing recognizable. Tonight, though, we know divers have found at least 40 bodies. The rest are said to be inside the wreckage, unreachable right now in the water. We do know that divers have also found the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder from the American jet. Those so-called black boxes, of course, will be very vital in this investigation. They were immediately driven about 2 miles north to the NTSB lab there in Washington, D.C. Investigators say they have not yet retrieved, though, the onboard recorder from the helicopter. All of those devices might provide clues about what was happening up until the moment of impact. Tonight, this is clearly personal for a lot of these investigators. This is their home airport in D.C., the one that they actually use, the NTSB members, the one that many members of Congress use every week, the busiest airport in the nation's capital. Here's what the NTSB said about it this afternoon.
A loss of life in an aviation accident is very unusual in the United States, and our heartfelt sorrow goes out to everyone that's affected. It affects us, it affects everyone around us. There are a lot of people hurting today. We will help find out what happened. We will do it factually, and we will do it accurately.
There are a lot of people hurting there in D.C. and Fort Worth and Wichita and a lot of other places across this country because of what happened. 67 people lost their lives last night in that tragic mid-air collision. Tonight, Howard University sharing this picture of Professor Kia Duggins. The law professor was on board Flight 5342. She is from Wichita and was a civil rights lawyer who practiced both in D.C. and right here in Texas. Other victims include a young pilot, soldiers, and some rising stars in the figure skating world. Tonight, we are just beginning to learn their names and their stories. Here's Sydney Persing.
There's still, of course, just so much we don't know tonight. But what we do know is that these passengers, soldiers, and crew members matter. They had lives and families and hopes and dreams, and each one of them deserves to be remembered. When 2 aircrafts with 67 souls on board collided, not one made it home.
Please welcome to the ice, Gina Hahn.
Gina Hahn was flying back from a U.S. figure skating camp. She was only 13.
We watched Gina just grow up here. And we talk a lot about the athletes, but I think we're going to miss their moms as much.
Gina's mom was on the flight too. So was 16-year-old skater Spencer Lane and his mom, Christine. Spencer hadn't been skating for long, but so quickly made a name for himself on the ice.
He was just beaming.
Coaches Vadim Nemov and Zhenya Shishkova were also coming back from skating camp, a married couple and world pair champions back in '94. Their son Maxime, now an orphan.
I really can't believe that it happened.
Also on board the Eagle, First Officer Samuel Lilly. Inspired by his own father to become a pilot, Lilly was just engaged, to be married in the fall. He couldn't wait to get a dog and a house and have kids. Then there was flight attendant Ian Epstein, 53. He adored his job because he adored meeting new people. He was a dad, husband, and a brother. Brielle and Justina Bayer were there too. Mom and daughter, 12 and 42. There was a college student, Grace Maxwell of Wichita, a quiet engineering major at Cedarville University, who wanted to use her degree to help people, especially kids. And Cadet Ryan O'Hara, one of 3 Army soldiers on the Black Hawk. He is survived by his wife and their 1-year-old son. 2 aircrafts, 67 precious souls gone, and countless lives that will never be the same because of it. In Dallas, I'm Sydney Persing.
You know, that is really chilling when you put faces on this, Chris. You used to live in D.C., and for folks who've been to D.C. for tours or for anything else, you've likely seen, especially on the National Mall, helicopters buzzing up and down the river. The airspace there in D.C., if you've flown into Reagan National Airport, is complicated and it is congested.
Yeah, 2 words that sum it up. My family and I, we lived about 2 miles from Reagan National for years. You've got Fort Belvoir, 15 miles south. You got Blackhawks coming up from there. If you look at the Potomac River, you've got the airport on one side, you've got Joint Base Anacostia on the other side. And they were constantly ferrying people. I've got to go to the Pentagon. So-and-so has to go testify on Capitol Hill. So things that would make other people in other areas kind of look up and go, what's going on? You forget they're even there because you just see these helicopters flying all over. And as you mentioned, its popularity with members of Congress, they want to get out of town as quickly as possible. So they've been really pushing to have more flights out of DCA.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the military is going nowhere. Reagan National is going nowhere. Until investigators figure out exactly what happened in this, it's uncertain exactly what is going to change. But as you know, Chris, from covering a lot of these incidents, anytime there is a major commercial aviation disaster, something always changes, usually system-wide, nationwide.
And unfortunately, it does take incidents like this for things to change in some cases.
Sure
Thank
does.
you, Jason. A lot of us woke up this morning thinking how fragile life can be. So you can understand the arrivals at Dallas Love Field were more emotional than normal. Here's Kevin Reese.
Thank you for choosing Southwest Airlines. Welcome to Dallas.
Southwest Flight 836, the first afternoon nonstop to arrive at Love Field Thursday from Reagan National in D.C.
Yeah, it's pretty somber.
Felicia Neal says she looked out her 737 window as she left D.C. She could see the wreckage and the rescuers in the Potomac.
I was very teary-eyed. It's cold, and you know that there's people there.
Stacy Cochran and her friends avoided Reagan Airport, took a 1-hour Uber ride to Baltimore to catch a flight home instead.
I had to get home from D.C. somehow, but it's scary to go back up into the sky.
But Gerald and Martin Johnston from Granbury, on that first flight back to Dallas from D.C., said this.
Not worried about flying. It's still the safest way to go.
The public has come to legitimately understand that this is the safest form of transportation.
Aviation consultant John Nance notes the 100,000 commercial flights every day across the globe without major problems. Still, this one concerns him.
Is a wake-up call that aviation is a very delicately balanced machine, and we've learned a lot about how to keep that balance. Mid-air collisions are one of the things that we fear.
Dallas County Judge Clay Jenkins flew home from D.C. as well tonight, calling the trip through Reagan National somber.
I'm very thankful and thinking about those people from Wichita, didn't make it.
And Felicia Neal says she shed another tear or two again when her plane touched down in Dallas.
She's grateful we made it safely.
And from the cold Potomac to Dallas, the investigation begins to make it feel safe. Again, at Love Field in Dallas, I'm Kevin Reese.
At the time of the crash, there was no permanent head of the FAA, but President Trump just appointed Christopher Rocheleau as acting administrator until he or someone else is confirmed. He also signed a memorandum to end diversity, equity, and inclusion practices in the aviation sector. The president blamed those initiatives for weakening the agency, but didn't present any evidence to prove it.
The FAA's diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That is amazing.
The chairman of the Special Olympics disputed that claim. Timothy Shriver posted that, quote, "To our knowledge, no persons with profound intellectual disabilities are employed as air traffic controllers in the U.S. or elsewhere." And he made clear to point out, quote, "People with intellectual disabilities are a valuable asset to the workplace." If divers go back in the water tomorrow, they'll have to contend with some rain. It'll start overnight and continue through most of the day. That could reduce some visibility and lead to some slightly choppy waters.